I was having a conversation with a group of friends and family the other week, and there was a friend that was present that isn't so particularly interested in the conflict, doesn't really have their head dug deep into it. And the group was talking about, is this fundamentally a religious conflict, and is it only a theological battle ultimately, and that is that what's causing it? And others were saying, no, it's political, and this is the way we fix it, and this is why we have the right, and this is what they think they have the right. And it was going back and forth, and this one person who was there just exasperated at one point and says, guys, for goodness sake, it's just grass. And I wanted to know what's your reaction to that? Because there's plenty of things you could say, but what do you say when someone who's not super informed on it is looking at this and just thinking, what is all the fuss about ultimately?
That's a very good observation. But it leads you to the conclusion that there is something very special going on here. Because otherwise, it really is just a piece of grass. Isn't it amazing for an occupying people, occupiers, conquerors, we choose to conquer this little piece of insignificant geography? If we're occupiers, we don't have a very big appetite. All we want is this little piece of land. So we need to think a little deeper, obviously. We are the chosen people. God gave us the land. This is as good as God gets when he gives out land. So the claim or the story behind it is much, much bigger than the actual piece of property. And you have to wonder, why? All this fuss about this little piece of land? It's got to raise some questions, not only in our mind, but also in the mind of the enemy. Why are we fighting over this little piece of land? So we must come to the conclusion that it's a theological battle. This is not a matter of greed. If you're greedy, you go for a much bigger piece of land. And the Torah, it's not like, okay, we'll want to capture this little piece and then expand further until we have the whole Middle East. No, the Torah says clearly, these are your borders. And they define and describe a tiny little piece of land. That's all God gave us. That's all we seem to need. So yes, if you're talking about territory, none of this makes any sense. On both sides. So there has to be something much more significant behind the issue. And of course there is, and there always has been. The average Muslim is not that well informed on the theology. All they know is this land is ours by some mystical spiritual gift. And to not possess it is a sin against God. They know that. That's behind it all. I don't know, the average terrorist who committed all those horrible crimes were not thinking God at the moment, even though they were saying, in the name of God, God is great. But if they trace their own conviction to where it came from, to its origins, it starts with the imams, it starts with the religious belief that the descendants of Yishmael are the rightful heir to the land by God's decree. Now imagine you're dealing with people who believe that if they don't capture the land, they are sinning. What do you do to discourage them?
Mm.
Tell them you'll give them a piece of the land? Don't waste your breath. So once we bring in the theological element, it all makes sense. Every detail makes sense. There cannot be a two-state solution, because if you believe that the land is yours by divine decree, so when Israel says, we will give you a part of the land, no, you don't give us anything. It's already ours. You are the invaders, you are the foreigners, you must be expelled. It also explains why they're determined to eliminate, God forbid, every Jew in the world. Because Jews are contenders to the inheritance. So as long as there's a Jew around, it's possible that the Jew inherits. Whereas Christianity, even in its worst days, never wanted to eliminate all Jews. They wanted to convert us, they wanted to own us and everything we owned, by carrying off all the vessels of the temple and boasting about it. Conquerors like to show off. So they never intended to annihilate Jews. Then who would they convert? But if it's a matter of inheritance, converting Jews to Islam is not the solution.
Mm.
So if we don't see the theological background to the story, we don't understand anything. And all the solutions that have been attempted and suggested in the last 70 years has all been secular. It's like, why don't you appease them? Listen to them. Ask them what they really want and give it to them, and then the problem is over. Say we listen to them. We're the only ones who listen to them. They want only one thing:
Mm.
the entire land and Jews gone.
Mm. Yeah.
It's the secular world that isn't listening.
Yeah. And it's become clear to me as well that the two-state solution model is actually perpetuating the problem. For as long as you indulge this idea that maybe there is legitimacy to this Palestinian narrative, we're perpetuating the problem, because we're telling them, yeah, you've got a point, so keep resisting.
We're acting guilty, which encourages them.
Hmm.
But if we close the door on all negotiations and we simply said, you're right, Israel is an inheritance. You can't capture it by force. You can't buy it for money. You can't receive it as a gift. It's an inheritance. But it's our inheritance, and we can't give it away because it belongs to our grandchildren who are not yet born.
Hmm.
So without their consent, we can't give you an inch. Can't.
Hmm.
I think that would resolve the issue.
Hmm.
Because the Muslims really are believers. And if you show them that the Torah says explicitly, in the name of God, that Yitzchak inherits, not Yishmael, I think it would turn everything around.
You think they would buy it?
Yes. More than anybody else on the planet.
Hmm.
They are true believers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they've devoted themselves to the wrong belief.
Hmm. But they really could be great partners if they had the theological shift because of their devotion, more so to monotheism than anyone else in the world. They could be great partners of the Jewish people.
Yes. Yeah, I'm absolutely convinced that in the end, that will happen, and they will take down the mosque on
Hmm.
the Temple Mount so that we can build a third Beis Hamikdash.
Yeah, absolutely. I was speaking to actually, hold on one second. I'm not sure if I'm going to go to this question just yet. Okay, so just want to pick up specifically on this point about when this person said it's just grass. But what is it about this land? I was just there last week, and I was wondering. We know it's the Holy Land; that it has a certain holiness to it, but it's not necessarily visible to the naked eye. What is it about this place that makes it so special? This plot of land, and why is it not so easily visible?
Well, that I think is the nature or the definition of Golus, exile. Exile means people don't recognize who the Jews are and where we belong in the world and in history. It means God is not visible and it's not clear to the world who created all of this, and the holiness of the land is not visible. That's all part of exile or concealment, as it's described in Kabbalah. Hester panim. The truth is concealed. And that's the challenge. If the truth were obvious to the eye, there would be no challenge.
Mm.
When Mashiach comes, the truth will be visible to the eye, and that challenge will be gone. And we will have to be bumped up to a higher challenge.
You mean the eye will literally see holiness?
Yeah. More than that, it'll see godliness.
Mm.
Difference is, angels are holy, and you can see angels. Doesn't necessarily make you a better person.
Mm.
Whereas if you see godliness, then you appreciate the things God appreciates. Your will becomes like his will. What he wants, you want. What he likes, you like. What he dislikes, you dislike. Because you're becoming God-like, which is much greater than holy-like or angelic.
Mm.
So this challenge of hearing the truth in the tumult of lies, it's a noble cause. And we're told that even after Mashiach comes, we will be a little nostalgic. We'll look back at this challenge with appreciation. I got to quote Vladimir Putin. He said to the chief rabbi of Russia, he said, under the communist rule, things were very difficult for the Jewish people, weren't they? It's much better now. The rabbi said, yes. And Putin said, but I think that back then, being Jewish was the real thing. The challenge that it presented, that was impressive. That you could remain a Jew under those circumstances, wow, that's the real thing. This is
Mm.
easy. You know, when the Soviet army band leads the Lag BaOmer parade in the Kremlin Square, it's easy.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Or rather, the challenge is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, finding the truth, or at least maintaining the truth, despite a world of lies, that brings out the best in people, the hidden strengths.
Yeah. Hi everybody, thanks for watching. If you want to watch another one, click here. If you want to subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest JTV content, click here. And if you're feeling really keen, you can click the join button down below underneath this video, where you can get perks including early access to new videos and private live discussions with me, where we can talk about JTV content and strategy moving forward, and I'll get to hear from you. Thanks again for watching.